The world is changing quickly. All over the earth, people are trying to cope with change. The political, economic, environmental, and social transformation is profound. Our friends, family, neighbors, and communities wrestle to find new ways to adapt to whole new realities. But some people have had struggles far beyond what we can even imagine. In the Sudan, 50 years of civil strife and war between the Muslim, Christian, and animist traditions continues to force millions to flee the violence that has left over 400,000 barbarously killed and 2 million displaced, leaving many with no prospect of ever returning. In the Southeast Asian region, the ancient country of Burma, now known as Myanmar, has a long history dating back to the Second World War of struggles for power and independence. Villagers in Burma's northern mountain regions have been forced to fight against well-armed government forces, leaving them no option but to seek shelter in refugee camps in Thailand, where they have been holed up for decades and unwelcomed by Thai nationals. The Karen, Karenni, and Chin peoples have been particularly hard hit by these struggles. As the conflicts continue, the need to resettle the southern Sudanese and Darfur tribes and the hill tribes of Burma, as well as Bhutanese who fled their Himalayan homeland for refugee camps in Nepal, escalates as camps are already overflowing with thousands of new refugees. Around the world, refugees, many of whom know nothing of life outside the camps, seek a new life for their families. In the United States, the initial relocation is administered by the U.S. Office of Refugee Resettlement, the ORR, which provides the support to transition the refugees on a temporary or permanent basis into communities to restart and repair their shattered lives. Care for refugees brought to the United States by the ORR is entrusted to local resettlement networks, which coordinate with the ORR for a period of time. San Diegans have been actively working in these efforts for 15 years.
The Episcopal Refugee Network is the inheritor of 15 years of labor. It started as a St. Luke's Refugee Network when some 3,500 Sudanese refugees arrived in San Diego, brought here by the United States government. And the needs of these people had to be met, and St. Luke's moved out to meet those needs. Today, the size of the population that we serve is larger. We have quite a large number of Karen and Karenni from the mountains of Burma. So the whole operation has expanded to be an organization of the Episcopal Diocese of San Diego.
The board of the Episcopal Refugee Network meets monthly to oversee the ongoing program. Through their coordinated efforts, 6 staff members, previous refugees themselves, have been hired to handle the day-to-day challenges. Between them, the staff speaks many of the languages of the increasingly diverse groups served by the network. From the time a refugee lands in San Diego, the Episcopal Refugee Network acts quickly. The network is a people-to-people program. The Episcopal Refugee Network has recently served over 2,500 Sudanese and over 1,000 Karen and Canaanite mothers, fathers, and children, and a growing number of Iraqis, Bhutanese, and other refugees. It's a daunting task, finding affordable accommodations, setting up households with furniture and food, and providing translation and transportation and other forms of assistance to help our local refugees transition.
I'm from Thailand.
To their new lives.
I need to learn also English. I want to go to the college too.
The Refugee Network provides day-to-day support, relying on its volunteers to assist in meeting the diverse needs of whole and single-parent families and their children, of teens, job seekers, and the older adult community, who must learn to cope with the challenges of self-sufficiency.
The older women, for example, come sometimes with very complicated medical conditions, which we would never hear about because they are very easily isolated. They come in order to help the family, but it isn't very long before the children grow to the point where they don't answer to grandma anymore. At that point, they really go out especially, for instance, one lady that I was introduced to recently who speaks a language the only other person we know of who speaks is her son. When he's out of town, she's completely out of communication with anybody else. This, of course, is not a very common situation, but it's amazing how often there are individuals like that who, for one reason or another, are isolated and practically homebound.
With each refugee family that arrives, the network works to get them to relative self-sufficiency as soon as possible.
You might be wondering how you could help us, and we invite anyone that speaks English to come and volunteer as a tutor with us.
My name is David Watson, and I've been tutoring in the Episcopal Refugee program for, I think, nearly 4 years now. There are some people who are natural teachers. Some of our very best tutors are students from some of the private and public schools around here who have had very little teaching experience. But they come in and they connect with the kids, and they do a terrific job.
Many of you may not know this, but in my early vocation, I was a math teacher. One of the joys of my experience in working with the Refugee Network was tutoring. I want everyone who has the desire to volunteer for the Refugee Network to have the experience that I have. And think about the doors that those moments are opening up for these refugees who have come and made home with us. So please, please, please consider volunteering as a tutor in the Refugee Network.
The Episcopal Refugee Network continues to provide the guidance and assistance to restore dignity and self-reliance to people who have come a long way and are willing to work hard to find it.
Refugees are highly motivated people. They came into this country with mentality of helping themselves and their families. And once they arrive here, the first thing that they would like to do is to find a job. And to find a job is to support your family. And also to find a job, you have to have your own apartment. If you know an employer, or also if you want a particular job that need to be done, such as, helping you in your own small businesses, I think it will be a best way to help a refugee. They are highly motivated to do any kind of job that you have out there. So if they could work in the factory, they could work at homes, anything that you want it done, it could be done by a refugee.
Many of us feel a responsibility to aid in the transition. As the needs continue to grow, so too does our need for reaching out amongst the San Diego community as neighbors.
Imagine that today you were told that you were going to pick up and leave your home here in California and were going to be taken halfway around the world to make a new life. And you were told to leave now and to leave everything you have behind. But rather than what you have to leave behind, you actually have very little. And now you're in a different place, a place where the language is different, the money that's used is different, the food is different, the climate is different, and you know almost no one. That's what it's like for those who are refugees and are now our friends and neighbors. Their need is immense, and the Refugee Network attempts to address that need. But they need each of us as partners. And to meet these needs, we need to give of our wealth, our fruits, so that others may live. And so I ask you to join me in being a generous giver to the Refugee Network. Because we do this, those who are on the front lines with our refugee friends and neighbors will have what they need to answer those needs. So I ask you to give generously.
All humanity has a longing to care. Now more than ever, compassion for those displaced due to the ongoing shift in global stability is needed.
The Refugee Network can continue its work only so long as it can support its staff, pay the gas mileage, support the van that takes people to appointments, the truck which is used to deliver food, and that's quite an expensive operation these days. But we can't function without a substantial set of donations, something that has to total over $200,000 a year. One or two churches, in fact more than one or two now, have established what they call friends groups, Friends of the Refugees. So there are various avenues by which a leader in the church could say, we should be friends of the network, and if we are, I wonder what we could do. How could we raise some money? How could we get donations? And so, as an Episcopal institution, we really depend on that now, and the fate of these refugees really is in our hands. I'm sure they'll survive one way or another without a lot of help, but they won't survive well. They will not become good citizens. They will not get educated. They won't get a job by which they can bring up their family. This is one of the best examples you can have of work that can be done right here in your own backyard, where you can see the results and where you can talk to the people who most need your help.
The Episcopal Refugee Network. Please give of your time, of your bounty, and your blessings with your financial aid, so critical right now to continue and to expand our capacity to care for those who long for basic human dignity and peace. Here's what you can do.
If you would like more information, I hope you will go to our website, and the address is episcopalrefugenetwork.org.